Coming up on SBJ Spotlight, our John Oran is on the ground in Denver and talks us through MLB's All-Star Week and also some of the hottest stories in sports media. Our Mark Burns talks about the major off-season challenges facing the NHL. And our Insiders Roundtable discusses the most important stories of the week. All that right now on SBJ Spotlight. Hello there, I'm Abe Madcore. Welcome again to SBJ Spotlight. Up front today, a look behind the headlines at some of the biggest stories of the week. We have our reporters around the country to provide you the insight and analysis for some of the biggest stories of the day. John Oran making your first business trip in more than a year, going to Denver for the MLB All-Star Game. How's it feel? How's it feel to be on the ground in the Rocky Mountain State?
It feels great. It's been 18 months, Abe, and just going to the ballpark to get the credentials. I ran into a couple of people. I recognized them, had a couple of quick chats. That hasn't happened. There's a real sense in Denver among sports business folks that, that we are starting to get out of it. I know we've been saying that for how long now, but now this is like a really big event. People are coming here. It still isn't totally normal yet. And when I went to get my credentials, I had to have my vaccination card and give that.
Oh, really?
To get them. You still have to wear masks in certain areas. So it's not totally like 2019 again. I was talking to Terry Lefton, our colleague, and we both think maybe the Super Bowl in LA, that's going to be the real big coming out party for the business. But I'm just telling you, it feels great. And just talking with various Fox executives, ESPN executives, all on the ground here. There's a certain energy you always get from the big events, but there's a little bit more right now.
Well, good thing you got that haircut after 18 months, or else I would not have recognized you in Denver. But baseball and baseball partners have to feel pretty good about where the game is right now, because I think the first half of the season has been pretty strong for the league. A lot of young stars emerging. Certainly we know the Ohtani storyline, so they have to feel a little bullish.
Ohtani, Fernando Tatis is somebody that people keep mentioning. If you look at the TV ratings for Major League Baseball, I mean, we're talking about, NBA ratings being down compared to 2019. The NHL playoffs, they weren't very good. Baseball actually has an okay story to tell.
It does.
ESPN, they're doing well. They're up. Fox, they're down slightly from 2019, but they're up considerably over last year. The whole storylines around MLB, they're doing pretty well. Always makes me laugh whenever we talk about baseball. Is everybody complains about how do we market these young stars? I think they're marketing them pretty well, and I think it's showing in terms of the TV ratings.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think that also the biggest storyline so far really has been on the field of play with some of the foreign substances and how they're going to regulate that. But overall, some of the storylines have been pretty interesting, and they're pretty well set up for a good second half, I would think.
Yeah, I was just talking to Brad Zager at Fox Sports just about the All-Star Game, and he said that the way that they're going to approach the All-Star Game at Fox is it's going to be a celebration of the first half of the year, and they're going to just kind of use that as a jumping off point to the rest of the year. If the races stay close, if the stars continue to play well, I think baseball is going to be very happy. And this is an Oriole fan saying this, by the way.
Well, I think that really everyone at Fox and ESPN would love to see the Yankees make a run in the AL East, but otherwise, to your point, they have to feel pretty good about the storylines. Before I let you go hit the streets of Denver, two other stories. I know you're an NBA guy. I know you're watching the NBA Finals. The business stories around the NBA viewership in your mind are what?
Okay, let me start with the good news for the NBA, because the ratings so far, the numbers, they're not very good. The good news is that on Sunday night, the Bucks won, guaranteed a Game 5. So ABC now is pretty much guaranteed to make their money back. If the Bucks can win another game and guarantee a Game 6, then, oh boy, ABC is going to be very happy. And a Game 7, we're going to see more than 20 million viewers, and all this talk of ratings is going to be thrown out the window. The bad news is that the ratings so far, they aren't very good. They're up on 2020, which is something that ABC and the NBA really wants to hammer home. but through the first two games, which is all the numbers that we have at the time we're taping this, Abe, down 35% from 2019, down 51% from the first two games of 2018. I mean, that's a trend line that, yeah, they're up from the very low bubble of last year, but it's a tough story to be spinning.
And your reasoning for those numbers, is it because of the lack of major marquee teams or markets or players, or what is it a larger issue with the NBA programming?
Look, as with all ratings, there are probably 20 reasons why the numbers are down. And I think you can take any one of those reasons. One reason that you didn't mention, these games are being played in July, after the July 4th holiday.
That's fair.
There are fewer people watching television now than in June, when the NBA typically has its playoffs. So I think, add them all together. There are different reasons for here, why, and whatnot. I'll really be looking at next year or the year after. Will Giannis become the type of star that draws the TV ratings? Possibly. LeBron James did it in Cleveland, which is not one of the big markets. They need other players to start stepping up. And I'm a fan. They have a good core group of young players.
Well, John, as we know, it was a tough week personnel-wise in Bristol and around all the storylines at ESPN. But when it comes to their programming and rights deals, they had nice wins with both the Euro Championship, and they're seeing significant gains around their UFC partnership.
Yeah, last week was a tough week PR-wise with Maria Taylor and Rachel Nichols and trying to deal with that fallout. I'm curious to see if that has legs going into this week. I'm almost certain that it will, because Maria Taylor's contract is up right in the middle of the finals, game 6. Literally that day is when her contract is up. And so we should know on July 20th, we will know on July 20th, the resolution of what happened with that. I mean, those Euro numbers for mid-afternoon games during the week are huge. And it shows why the rights for soccer, international soccer, in Italy, in Spain, you're seeing just rights fees going through the roof. MLS, they have their rights coming up. US Soccer, they have their rights coming up. We both think that they're going to see pretty significant increases in their rights fee. I mean, the soccer right now is doing really, really well as a media property in the United States. And in terms of ESPN with the UFC, their strategy, I think, is so good. I mean, it's so normal. They have preliminaries on ESPN, and then they draw you into ESPN Plus, and then they make you pay for the pay-per-view. And it's Conor McGregor, who's he is one of the most reliable pay-per-view UFC fighters that's ever existed. So they're doing really, really well with that property.
And to your point, from the top of the funnel all the way to the purchasing decision, ESPN has really mapped out the user experience quite well. John Oran, I know you're eager to go see Sources in Denver. Have a great week in Denver. We look forward to your full report down the road.
Yeah, Abe, get me out of this dingy hotel room. The sun's shining, man.
You never know it, but be well. Have a good one.
Thanks.
I'm joined now by SBJ hockey writer Mark Burns. Mark, the NHL closed the curtain on its season. We got 3 interesting off-season stories I want to talk to you about. First, Seattle will be the NHL's 32nd franchise when it begins play this October. I've talked a lot about the Kraken and how bullish I am on their success. What do you feel could be the business performance of this expansion team?
Yeah, you're already seeing, positive business metrics from the Kraken. They sold out of ticket sales back in January, about 9,000 full season ticket holders. So you're already seeing great numbers from them. They began, as you mentioned, 21-22, their first season. They're playing their games at Climate Pledge Arena, a naming rights partner with Amazon. Amazon isn't on the building. It's Climate Pledge and the focus on Climate Pledge sustainability, which is an interesting wrinkle for a naming rights partner. You don't really see that across pro sports, not having the company's name on a building. The team begins with their preseason 3 home games that aren't actually going to be at Climate Pledge Arena. They're going to be played at some junior hockey facilities in the area, get the word out about the Kraken, and hopefully they'll continue with their positive success on the business side.
Yeah, I mean, you've hit it. I mean, all the pieces that they're putting in place, really interesting under Todd Leiweke. And I love starting their season in these regional outposts where they can build up interest in the team. And he's got a very, very diverse staff. Seems like they're just hitting all the right marks right now. You think hockey will do well in Seattle, don't you?
I think it'll do very well. I mean, the proximity to Vancouver, you got our natural rivalry there, Denver, all the California-based clubs. It's the youth hockey in the region, right? They're going to do extremely well, in my opinion. And you mentioned the diversity. That's been a focus of Todd Leiweke and ownership from day one, because they've been able to build this franchise from scratch in 2021, in this current climate that we're in. DEI and those types of initiatives, having people of diverse backgrounds, diverse thought, experiences, you're really seeing it with the Kraken.
NBC recently wrapped up its run of 15 plus years broadcasting NHL games. Next season, the NHL will have new partners, Disney and ESPN and Turner Sports. Two parts to this question. How did NBC leave a legacy in terms of its coverage of the NHL? And what are you keeping an eye on with the new media partners heading into next season?
Yeah, you've really seen it from day one with NBC back in 2005, 2006. Innovation and being at the forefront of trying new things. Sam Flood, the executive producer, now is the executive producer. At the time, was coordinating producer and came up with the concept of Inside the Glass, putting that hockey analyst in between the benches to get really the temperature, the feel of the game, and to basically provide a new position for a hockey commentator. So you've really seen it since day one. You've seen the Inside the Glass position, the Winter Classic, numerous outdoor games with the Outdoor Series. And so their coverage of hockey for 15 plus years has really been marked by innovation and experimentation.
To that point, Sam Flood is a hockey guy. I think Williams College and some other areas. So he had hockey in his blood, and it showed in the way NBC brought that innovation to the table. Number two, though, what do you anticipate from the new partners?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. You have ESPN, Disney, and Turner Sports. And with Turner, obviously, it's probably one of, if not the best studio show out there inside the NBA. I'm particularly interested in seeing how that fun, that personality that you see on that studio show, does that come to the Turner Sports broadcast? You're going to have Gretzky and some notable other figures in that studio show. Does that translate over? And with ESPN and Disney, from people I talked to around the league when that deal was announced, people couldn't have been happier, right? To be back on ESPN, grow the fan base. NBC did a great job, but I think with ESPN and Disney, you're going to reach more casual fans, probably more casual hockey fans, and maybe even fans that haven't been introduced to the sport ever. And hopefully they can continue to grow their audience base.
You know, everyone's talking about the great one on TNT, and I think he will be good. I think the sleeper here, Chris Chelios, who's going to be an analyst for ESPN, I think he's going to be a really, really interesting personality to watch. Story three, you've written a lot about it. New sponsorship opportunities, revenue growth around the NHL. We're talking about helmet decals. We're talking about possible jersey advertising. What do you expect in terms of the marketplace, and how do you see these teams selling in this new environment?
Yeah, I think the helmet decals that you referenced, those are going to continue into 2021, 2022 season. Jersey ads, Commissioner Bettman, and from what we've reported, that's going to be on hold for now, but it is something the league's exploring. In terms of the decals, last season, it was a make good opportunity. It was a revenue retention tool for the teams to retain that revenue and to retain partners. 2/3 of the naming of partners that were on a decal were naming rights partners. So I'm interested to see a couple things with this heading into next season. One, does that continue, or does that 2/3 split, does that go down to a third or less than a third of teams that have their naming rights sponsor on their helmet? And two, what types of companies obviously will be part of these, will be integrated into this position on the helmet, right? Is it going to be traditional brands in sports that are spending? Is it going to be more like the NBA, where you see teams that maybe haven't traditionally spent in sports coming into the fold, the Bumbles of the world, and tech companies, Silicon Valley based businesses? So it's going to be something interesting to watch. Teams don't have a full, year sales cycle as part of this, but they definitely have more lead time than what they had leading up to the current season, or this most recent season, with the make good selling that they were doing.
We knew once this new sponsorship inventory was introduced, it was probably going to be here to stay. And that's what you're seeing, certainly with the helmet decals, and you could see it with other inventory in the future. So 3 really interesting issues to watch during the NHL's offseason. Thanks, Mark Burns. Coming up next, our Insiders Roundtable will discuss the top stories in the sports industry and give our predictions and people of the week.
Sports Business Journal's in-person events are back. Reconnect with peers and create new relationships in person this fall while hearing from some of the industry's most influential executives. Here are the events you can't miss. In September, we kick off with our Thought Leaders Retreat in Lake Tahoe, followed by the Sports Facilities and Franchises Program and Ticketing Symposium in Las Vegas. In October, World Congress of Sports returns to New York City, where it was founded 20 years ago, and the buzz will continue in the Big Apple with the Game Changers Conference and Ceremony. November will be a busy month with the Brand Innovation Summit and Media Innovators, and we'll toast our new Voices Under 30 and 40 Under 40 honorees on consecutive nights at the Lighthouse at Chelsea Piers on Manhattan's West Side. In December, the big money will be back in New York for deal makers in sports. And we'll finish the year with the Intercollegiate Athletics Forum, which we are taking to Las Vegas in what will be an exciting week for college sports. Space may be limited for some of our events, so learn more and register today at sbjsbd.com/events. And if you can't be there in person, check out the programs through our virtual platform and engage in real time with attendees who are on site or tuned in from their offices. Either way, we look forward to being with you and helping you get back to business.
Welcome to the Insiders Roundtable, where I'm joined again by our panel of experts to discuss some of the big issues of the day. In the spotlight this week are SBJ's Chris Smith and returning guest Mihir Walavakar, CEO of LiveLike. Welcome to you both. Let's get first to the Olympics. Chris Smith, you're scheduled to go to Tokyo at the end of this week. 1, how do you feel about that? 2, what are you anticipating?
To tell you the truth, I'm feeling a whole lot of things, Abe. I think I'm cautiously optimistic, a little bit anxious. We're hearing that the logistics, things seem to be working. People are moving through the process, but not without hiccups. I'm anxious to get there and see how everyone else is doing. I know a lot of top sports business execs aren't even making the trip, and those who are going, remains to be seen what they're actually going to be able to do there.
What is your likelihood to be able to get out and network and see other people for meetings in open spaces, or how difficult has it been to schedule meetings?
I haven't scheduled a single meeting yet, so that'll give you an idea of just how hard it is. I think everyone's waiting to get on the ground and find out really for themselves what that's going to look like. I suspect it's going to be a lot of trying to meet people at venues, meet people at the media center, not so much meeting people at hotel bars and restaurants.
And Mihir, as an observer, what are you looking at? Because there's so many issues here. The spectatorless games. You have all the issues with the COVID cases spiking in Tokyo. You also have some great storylines around a lot of these sports.
I mean, look, from a fanless venues perspective, I think pretty much every single sporting event has already gone through that over the past 1 year. So I expect that to happen without glitches. What has actually been really interesting to me is some athletes pulling out because there would be no fans there, which was, Nick Kyrgios being probably the most visible one or the one who has made the biggest noise about it. But I was surprised by that, because I would have thought athletes are going there to represent their country, and not be as impacted by whether there were fans in the stadium or not. But from a production and logistics standpoint, from all the, some of my ex-colleagues are there in Japan right now to cover the event in virtual reality, and they're part of the production crews. And it's just that everything is so much more elongated. People have to be there so much earlier, quarantine, etc. So obviously things are more difficult, but no issue that cannot be overcome.
I'm anticipating NBC Sports and NBC to do a lot with the broadcast, because they knew the likelihood of spectatorless games was quite high. So I'm sure they have some plans there. Chris, from your sense and talking to your sources, what's the expectation of the performance of these games going into Tokyo?
It's a great question, and I've heard all over the spectrum, right? I mean, NBC was preempting this spectatorless venue, specifically foreign spectators, for a while. So they're going to have a lot of cameras in homes, friends and family. They're going to have a big event in Orlando. They're going to have friends and family down there celebrating together. So I think they're going to replace a lot of what is going to be missing. There's no way to replace a full stadium, fans from all over the world cheering on, their athletes, and so I think that's going to hurt. And we've seen sports ratings down across the board still. So I think there is a little bit of concern, but others have told me, Deidre DeLilly, who runs marketing for Toyota North America at the Olympics, she predicted this is going to be the most watched Olympics yet. And I think, there's a lot of people in that camp who think that the world is waiting for a global event like this to come together.
It's interesting you say that. I was out last weekend and just around friends and at dinner parties or cocktails, and people were talking about the games with great excitement. Mihir, what's your anticipation of how these games will perform?
I think they're going to do well. I mean, if the Euros and Copa America are any proxy for what a global event can be, I think those events have done really well in terms of viewership. Especially because it's nation versus nation. We've not really had any multinational events in the last 12 months or so. Whatever we've had has been more domestic championships, even though you guys call your championships world championships. I don't think the world sees it that way. So it'll be fun to see how nations react to these events together.
Well, to your point, the ratings around the Euro on ESPN, very strong. So that's a good takeaway. Let's shift from the Olympics to we're 2 weeks into this new era in intercollegiate athletics, that of name, image, and likeness. Chris Smith, what have been your quick early takeaways so far?
The two ones that I've really taken away, Abe, one, to stick with the Olympics for a moment, I've heard from some agents concern actually for their Olympic athlete clients, that they're going to be coming back from Tokyo, hopefully with some medals around their necks. And now there's a whole lot more competition. So potentially going to be, many more mouths to feed here, and a challenge for the Olympic athletes who are not accustomed to having so many collegiate athletes competing with them. On the other hand, one thing that I've been surprised by, and maybe I shouldn't have been, but I was sort of expecting Nike coming in with millions of dollars, Adidas coming in, these major national brands throwing around a lot of money, right? Big deals for your Alabama quarterback, your LSU quarterback. Instead, we're seeing a lot of really smaller deals, regional deals, small businesses partnering with athletes, a lot of female athletes, a lot of Olympic sport athletes. I think that's, a great sign and really encouraging, the direction this thing is going.
To your point, you've seen just a few national overlays. I think Unilever's done one, and there may be a couple of others. But to your point, very local, very much targeted to a broad range of athletes in terms of who's so far, I would say, leveraging the new rights in name, image, and likeness. And Mihir, I'll come to you because we're seeing, I would say, rights of athletes across sports be amplified.
Yeah, I mean, I think NIL has been such an amplified issue over here, but even in the world of tennis, for example, which I follow much more closely as well, with this event, this weekend's, Djokovic's 20th win and his growing stature in the game, much to my chagrin, and his involvement with the PTPA, whether you like his opinions or not, he's definitely making a lot of noise with the Professional Tennis Players Association. If you see Naomi Osaka's comments and statements and moves around the idea of athlete mental health issues and stuff, there's never been an organization that has been advocating for player rights in the world of tennis, and PTPA is taking a bigger role in that. Whether starting with men's and whether it'll even become a real organization still remains to be seen. But frankly, the whole topic of athlete issues and athlete empowerment is definitely growing, and with every athlete having an opportunity to reach directly to their fans on Instagram, and athletes having more followers than teams and leagues do, it is 100% going to make a difference going forward.
Mihir, you make a great point about the efforts of tennis players, specifically male tennis players, led by Djokovic, to do a trade association. But that has been rife with, I would say, dispute, and it's very fractured because on one side you do have Federer and Nadal. On the other side, you have Novak representing or leading a lot of other players who may not be as high profile. And as we know, tennis players aren't the most, I would say, ones to work together towards a large, greater good cause. So it was a fascinating article in the New York Times Magazine just last week about it that if people haven't read, I'd strongly recommend they read. But there's a lot of politics involved and personalities, don't you think?
Definitely a lot of politics involved. And I don't think the players themselves are on the same page here. Not just men and women's, but even men's players are very much divided. But I feel like all of those things, I mean, everything that you see in the news, private equity is coming in. They're talking about ATP and WTA merging together. They're talking about combined media rights deals. They're talking about how ATP has to distribute more prize money. And I think the issues that the PTPA has raised are actually valid issues. I think the way they went about doing it, the timing was not great. And it also was on the heels of Novak's controversial statements around vaccines and stuff. So it was all warped in a weird sort of a storyline, but there are real concerns there. And I think there has to be a resolution somewhere or the other.
Yeah, even in the article, they admitted that their rollout has been clumsy, to say the least. So let's move on, because it has been an incredible sports month. And Mihir, you hit on between Wimbledon and the last week with the Copa and the Euro. A lot of big stories. NBA Finals, Stanley Cup Final. Mihir, I know you're an NBA guy. What are you watching around the state of the NBA's business?
Look, I'm supporting the Bucks. I've been a Giannis fan for years now.
For weeks?
I think for weeks, you said?
Yeah, really?
For years.
Okay.
I genuinely think that that all the news lines have been nominated by how live ratings have been down for a while because no big market team is in there. But I also think that's a problem that is more endemic to the NBA. I don't see NFL having the same issue, frankly speaking. There's a long story behind it, obviously. But in my mind, all the storylines in the news media about the small market teams are about how they will be losing their big stars to the big market teams. And in the formation, I feel like media sort of fuels into the narrative of big market teams. And there is no wonder that people are not really excited to see Devin Booker versus Giannis, even though Giannis is, admittedly, the biggest international superstar along with Doncic. So the fact that the ratings are down, I feel an issue that are self-inflicted wounds in my mind.
I will say, for those individual markets, for Phoenix and Milwaukee, this is their time to shine. You're seeing how those teams can really just ingratiate themselves into a marketplace, and such enthusiasm in both of those cities for both of those teams. So for the long term, the appearance in the NBA Finals for both the Suns and the Bucks will go a long way toward boosting their bottom lines. Now it's time for our predictions and people of the week. Chris Smith, I'll start with you and your prediction.
Maybe this is some of my travel anxiety showing through, but my prediction is that horror stories coming out of Tokyo, specifically around getting into Tokyo, are going to take over the headlines in the next week. I'm hearing already people are taking 5-6 hours to get through an empty airport. No food, no water. It's just station to station, checking your papers, taking your COVID test, sitting and waiting for results for an hour plus. I think, once more and more people start coming through, and especially athletes start coming through in droves with very big social media followings, we're going to start hearing a lot about this. And I think it's one of those things that's sort of a necessary evil, and there's nothing, to do to get around that, but we're going to be hearing a lot about it. And it's going to create, I think, a decent amount of bad press that hopefully, the lighting the Olympic torch will be able to burn away.
Well, I'm certainly hoping for the smoothest of travels for you, Chris Smith. Mihir, your prediction.
Two predictions, actually. First, Bucks in 7, and second, Novak takes the Golden Slam. Again, much to my chagrin.
God, you really are pain-inducing for yourself. You like living in this torture. My prediction, Major League Baseball hit on something in moving its draft to the start of its All-Star Week. The MLB draft that took place Sunday, July 11th, was the first time it moved from its traditional June slot and it drew a crowd of about 2,000 fans at a Denver theater and marked the first draft to be held in front of a live audience. There was clearly more energy to the television coverage, and I expect baseball to keep it here for the future because they've been looking to amplify coverage and attention around its draft and certainly get its draft on a larger stage. Putting it around its All-Star game certainly works, and I think it will stay there on Major League Baseball's calendar. So that's my prediction of the week. Now our person of the week, and Mihir, this time I'll start with you.
I touched on this a little bit early in the segment, but Novak Djokovic, given his 20th win, and as I mentioned, the PTPA's role going forward in the future of the sport, he definitely is my person of the week.
Abe, I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to take a few people. I've got LeBron James, I got Maverick Carter, Ryan Coogler, and the rest of the producers on Space Jam. I think, we haven't seen a mega sports movie like this in how long, right? Maybe since '96 when the first Space Jam came out. There's, Warner has over 200 merchandise collaborations. Nike's the obvious one, but you have Crocs in there. You have cereals. You have Kraft mac and cheese. You're going to see Space Jam everywhere. And I think that they're going to knock it out of the park.
It's an advertisement.
It is indeed, Mihir. It is an advertisement, and it is going to be everywhere. Well, my person of the week is sports agent Don Yee, and it's not for anything Don did recently or any major player deals, but more about his foresight. Because in January of 2018, Don Yee stressed to me time and again and told me that the most intriguing personality in all of sports business was Shohei Ohtani. And that was just when Ohtani had signed with the Los Angeles Angels from Japan. And Don Yee told me Ohtani was going to be amazing to watch and that he would influence young people around the world as to what is possible by being a two-way player. He also said it was inspiring to see such talent coming from the Asian community. Here we are 3 years later, and Yee's spot-on prediction makes him my person of the week and comes at a time as we need to celebrate the contributions of Asian Americans who are facing such violence, threats, and hate from all over society. So Don Yee, good work in being so forward-thinking. That wraps up our Insiders Roundtable. Thank you to Chris and Mihir. Chris, safe travels. Mihir, you're welcome on SBJ Spotlight anytime. And thanks to all of you for watching us on SBJ Spotlight. If you have questions, thoughts, or comments, please email them to us directly at spotlight@sportsbusinessjournal.com. We'll see you again in 2 weeks for another look at the key issues in sports business. Until then, take care. Thanks for watching. We'll see you down the road.